And we are rolling on this third day of October in UCLA in Los Angeles, where I'm ashamed to say that the sun is no longer shining. It's actually overcast today. It's kind of sad. It may rain. Praise the Lord. And we're about to hear from Sheehan, who's going to tell us about should Egypt release any political prisoners.
Hello, my name is Sheehan Parker, and I'd like to tell you the story of Mohammed Sultan. He graduated from Ohio State University in 2012, at which point he joined his mother in Egypt as she was going through treatment for her cancer. In 2013, the Egyptian president, who was democratically elected, was ousted by a general of Egypt, the current president, al-Sisi. After this ouster, many Egyptian youths, college students, intellectuals, and other Egyptian youth took to the streets in protest. And Mohammed Sultan was one of these protesters. So while he was in Egypt in 2013, he was in a protest in a peaceful sit-in in Egypt, when he was shot and then arrested. This is at the age of 25. Since that point, he's been in jail until 2015, when he was found guilty of spreading false news and allegedly being a member of the opposition group, the Muslim Brotherhood. At this point, the al-Sisi regime sentenced him to life in prison at the age of 27 for these protesting and free speech related crimes. Crimes, in scare quotes. This was reported by the NBC News, and today it brings us to the question that I think we can very easily answer: should Egypt release any of its political prisoners? I think the answer when we learn about Mohammed Sultan is a quick yes, which is why I'd like to take the proposition a step further. I propose that Egypt should institute a policy to regularly release its political prisoners. This policy will have three major advantages. First, it'll ease international pressures. Sorry, let me put it in the correct order. First, it's going to ease internal pressures on the Egyptian government. Second, it's going to ease international pressures on the Egyptian government. And finally, it's going to be beneficial for President al-Sisi himself, because it will legitimize his presidency as he enters the world diplomatic stage. Let me talk a little bit about the significance of this problem. Mohammed Sultan is one person, and obviously his being imprisoned for his protesting is a problem. But it's not a problem that's specific to Mohammed Sultan. In fact, according to Human Rights Watch in March, 41,000 people have been arrested as political prisoners in Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood estimates that 29,000, according to the same article, 29,000 of its members have been arrested for being its members. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood is the major opposition to President al-Sisi, so this is clearly a major crackdown on political activism and political opponency. So this applies not just to Mohammed Sultan, but to the other 41,000 prisoners who are locked up for their political beliefs in Egypt right now, and it's the reason we must stand in the affirmation. I'd like to go into the first point, and when I point out the advantages to this plan, I'd like to stress that the advantages are not just advantages for the prisoners, they're not just advantages for us in the free world, but they're going to be advantages even for President al-Sisi. This is the reason why everyone can agree that there needs to be regular releasing of political prisoners in Egypt. First, it's going to ease internal pressures. According to an article in the Middle East Eye in August, a community was gathered for a funeral of someone who died in prison after being a political prisoner of al-Sisi's. While the funeral began mournful and quiet, it quickly became a protest against the Egyptian government. This is not an uncommon occurrence in Egypt, as protests continue to rack the country. Al-Sisi will benefit, and the Egyptian government and people will benefit from the increased stabilization that will result from thousands of prisoners being returned to their families after being unjustly imprisoned. Secondly, it's going to ease international problems against Egypt. Al-Sisi has shown that he may be interested in easing international relations with Egypt, as he's demonstrated by releasing 100 prisoners on pardon the day before he appeared at the United Nations in September, as reported by by Mr. Maslin of Time magazine in September. Mr. Maslin believes that this strategic releasing of 100 high-level prisoners, which included journalists, students, and other activists, was strategically timed so that al-Sisi and Egypt would have a stronger playing field in the diplomatic world while he was at the United Nations. I believe that this shows that al-Sisi is interested in increasing Egypt's standing in the international playing field, and he can continue to increase Egypt's standing by continuing to release political prisoners in a regular system. Finally, this is going to benefit not just Egypt in terms of the Egyptian government and the Egyptian people, but it's going to benefit al-Sisi himself by legitimizing his government. In 2013, he was a general who took over in a coup d'etat against the democratically elected president. That doesn't start a person off with all that much legitimacy as a leader of a nation. However, to gain legitimacy, al-Sisi needs to make his move from a militaristic general into the leader of a nation. And by instituting a regular process to release political prisoners, he will show that he is a serious and real-life politician, not just a warmonger who's taking over the country. So we can see for these three reasons that, one, we will ease internal pressures because thousands of activists, students, and journalists will be released back to their families. Second, we can ease international pressures because Egypt will gain international standing as they regularly release political prisoners, because there are many nations calling on the release of these political prisoners, especially journalists. This is something that al-Sisi has shown that he's interested in through his past actions. And finally, this is beneficial because it will legitimize al-Sisi himself, who up to this point has created a reign of terror in Egypt, and can begin to legitimize his government unless he plans on holding on to a dictatorship, which the Egyptian people have already said no to, which led to their election of Morsi in the first place. And for these three reasons, I think it's clear that we can look at Mohammed Sultan's case and other cases like his and say, yes, Egypt should release some of its political prisoners. In fact, Egypt should release any of its political prisoners. But I think we also need to take the step forward and say it's going to be good for Egypt as a nation. It's going to be good for the Egyptian people. It's a win for al-Sisi. It's a win for the prisoners. It's a win for the people of Egypt, and it's a win for all of us in the free world, which is why I urge you to vote in the affirmation. Thank you.
Thank you. 704. What did you like? Stand up for Buddha?
Hi, my name is Jasmine.
Hi, Jasmine.
I was impressed by the amount of knowledge you had. You really looked like you knew what you were saying. I was convinced. There was a lot of passion. At the end, I just wanted to be like, amen. It was good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Improvement. How can you be more effective next time?
Hello, my name is Carolyn.
Hi, Caroline.
First off, I really liked your speech. It was super good. You had a great vocal variety. I followed along perfectly well. You didn't use notes. I was super impressed. 100%. Probably going to have you help me with my next speech. But, improvement?
Walking.
Yeah, I guess walking.
Yeah. Shin,
I remembered on
thank you.
point 2 and then it felt
Thank you,
awkward.
Carolyn. Yeah, you thought about it and then you didn't. I didn't pan down to your feet, but you're standing like you're standing now, and I think you'd be better off to feet a little wider apart in the power stance. I liked your story that you started with. It was a compelling story, and you went back to it. After all, an American, you know, and he was shot and jailed, and then he got all this time, life imprisonment for what you tell us is just protesting. You know, we don't know. Maybe there's more to the story, but on its face, it was a good story. The way you're holding your hands now, release them, let them be by your side and gesture a little bit more. You have the habit of, and try to switch this up for your next speech, of having starting the quote in the beginning of the thing, according to NBC News this very year, they said, and says they at the end, so we get the credibility early rather than having to wait for it at the end. Oh, by the way, that was from NBC News. So you took this a step further and presented a plan, and I appreciate that because otherwise, we were left with this sort of vague resolution. Any? Well, 1, 2, 7, 10. And I'm very glad you didn't say all, because that would have been very argumentative and very problematic given some of the actions of the Muslim Brotherhood late in their short-lived career as the leaders of Egypt. On your significant statement, it was pretty good, but it was a little late in coming to getting them to care about it. So get a little bit more into why your audience should care about it. I'd like to see you, since you didn't move before, tell me about your morning and let's see you move. And when you practice moving. When you practice your speech, you'll move when you practice. So then you'll move here. So tell us about your morning. Starting first, your first point, go to the right 3 steps, 5 back to the right, and then back to the center. Come to the power stance when you stop. So tell us about your morning, sir.
First thing I did this morning was wake up, and because of the time change, it was sunny out, which is awesome. Then, after getting ready, I made my way to the bus stop, still in sun, which is a great feeling, and waited patiently for my bus. That?
Yeah, better.
Okay. Finally, after arriving at school, I rushed and was only 5 minutes late to work because it was a very crowded bus.
Okay, good. Let me suggest a couple things. Walk and talk, good. Don't just walk and not talk. Don't turn your body, keep it cheated forward as you walk and talk. But that was good. And get out of this habit of holding your hands together. Your kanais were to walk on your points, have a dynamic voice, and not speak with notes. How did that go?
2 out of 3, I'd say. Yeah, I totally forgot walking on my first point, and then I started my second point and realized that I hadn't walked on my first point and made like a false step and decided just to scrap it and to stand for the speech.
Yeah.
And then for the dynamism of my voice, I think I did better because I was less timid than the first one.
Yeah.
And I managed to do it without notes, even though there were a few points where I had to gather myself and remember where I was going.
Okay, that was fine. And I would say continue to work on the dynamism because it's something that you need to really fill the room more with your energy because, you know, you're very smart and you're very, together in your analysis. That's not your problem. Your more of your problem is in the delivery and in the presentation because if you keep it at a monotone or whatever, you're still going to lose some of your audience. Okay, you're brilliant, but, you're boring. So keep it dynamic, keep it interesting, throw some humor in, and you'll be great. Thank you. Okay.
It wasn't sunny this morning.
It was a little sunny.
Okay.
It was sunny, it was just freaking cold.
Before you start, can we have the next person put their topic on the board, please? No volunteers? Okay, good. There. Vartan!
Yes.
Okay.
I have my speech. Just,
Here we go. Okay.
I would rather wait for next week to have a better delivery.
I chose you, Vartan. Okay, well, I guess Vartan will do it after you start, so because he's going to take a while to get it out. Okay? He stands before you. Stand a little closer to the front of the of your talking square. That's your talking square. Just don't go past the front of that green box, okay? Okay, Cody stands before you managing attention. Smile. bond with your audience. Communicating respect non-verbally, saying to himself, I respect my audience, finding friendly eyes near the front and center, making sure no one's texting or on their computer. Yeah, close your computer, please. Find friendly eyes near the front and the center, say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hey you guys, my name is Cody.
Hi, Cody.
America was built by a nation of strangers. Over 60 years ago, President Lyndon B. Johnson made this statement to a joint session of Congress, highlighting the importance of immigration reform, but also the vital role that immigrants have played in our country since our founding. In 2014, President Obama's reaction to the need for immigration reform was issuing an executive order that would grant amnesty to over 5 million immigrants, undocumented immigrants in this country. His actions, though morally understandable, are legally incomprehensible, and for that, I would declare myself a friend to immigration reform, but a foe to President Obama's methods. Today, I want to discuss 3 reasons as to why I am not for President Obama's actions. The first is its legality. The second, its practicality. And the third is that he continues to leave a broken system broken. President Lyndon B. Johnson's statement still remains true today. We must remain a land of opportunity, but we must also remain a land of law and of order, based on the ideas of checks and balances. My first problem that I have with President Obama's executive order is that he is stepping way beyond his constitutional authority. President Obama's, according to Article 2 of the United States Constitution, the role of the president is clearly spelled out. He has the authority to command our armed forces. He has the authority to recommend legislation to Congress, and he has the sole duty of enforcing the law that Congress has passed and that of the United States Constitution. However, based on what President Obama has done, he has superseded already established law created by Congress in terms of immigration enforcement. He has undermined exactly what they had done and basically created his own law. One U.S. Circuit Court judge stated that the President and his Secretary has acted unconstitutionally by creating his own form of law in regards of immigration reform. This is a threat to American democracy. He is undermining the other branches when there is clear separation of powers. We are not an autocracy like that of Iran or that of Russia. We are a country where the powers of each branch is clearly enumerated and limited in its context. My second problem that I have with President Obama's executive order is that it is simply bold and impractical. According to the Washington Post, in August of 2014, President Obama's action basically was just simply there designed to jolt Washington. It lacked any real congressional or voter support from the states that not only need immigration reform, but demand it. This is not a president who lacks both the support of the people and of those who make the real decisions in Washington does not seem like a practical way of going about things. However, he continues to push forward. But there are other issues that President Obama faces, and it's the financial burden that this will place onto a system that is already struggling. In March of 2015, the Congressional Oversight Committee researched all this and found that President Obama's executive order will cost the nation additional billions of dollars each and every year in Social Security and welfare. These costs, being that they are now here legally, we must provide, because that's what we do for all people living in our boundaries legally. However, these systems are already in tatters, and we struggle providing those for our fellow Americans. So, how can we possibly, what the president is doing is he is not only going forward without any support from Congress and the people, he continues to push forward on using the resources of a system that already struggles to provide for its own. And my third and final point against President Obama's executive order is the fact that he continues to leave a broken system broke. It's like the idea of having a severed or broken arm and putting a Band-Aid on it. Sure, it may make it look nice for now, but it is ignoring the much larger issue that we face in terms of immigration reform. In July 2015, the Pew Research Foundation stated that in this country we have over estimated over 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country, and each and every year, hundreds of thousands continue to flood through our borders. Instead of the president continuing to advocate for for an easier pathway to citizenship, he continues to create a broad and not very succinct idea of immigration reform and catering to a select few, those 5.2 million immigrants. However, he's ignoring the larger issue at hand. So, what the president is doing, he's essentially ignoring and letting go of the rest of the people and the voter base and basically preventing bipartisan support towards real reform of a system that is clearly broken and poorly enforced. So in conclusion,
In summary.
I'd like to say that I cannot support President Obama's executive orders. What the president has done is both unconstitutional, impractical, socially and financially, and continues to ignore the real problems we face with immigration. So I hope that based on the three things that I have told you guys today, you too can also see the flaws in President Obama's orders. However, I want you guys to also remember that the statement that President Lyndon B. Johnson made over 60 years ago about what makes America great continues to exist. He finished his conclusion. In his conclusion, he said that what makes America great is that we are not merely a nation, but a nation of nations founded on the backs of immigrants. This must remain true. As we move forward, we must push for real immigration reform, but we must do so intelligently and legally, so that we can create not only an easier pathway for American citizenship, but keep the American dream strong. Thank you.
6:20.
Hi, I'm Madison.
Hi, Madison.
I really liked this, how your pace was really good. I think you've really improved from your first speech. I noticed you seemed so much more comfortable and confident, and it made you really demand our attention, and it was a lot easier to follow. So I really applaud you for that.
Thank you, Madison. Improvement. How can you be more effective next time?
Hello, my name is Raymond.
Hi,
Hi,
Ray.
Raymond.
Your speech was really good. It was really thought out. It was mapped out from point to point. And the one thing is that you seem, I'm not sure if this is necessarily a bad thing, but very structured. So like my first point, my second point, and then in conclusion, so make it transition more fluidly.
I can see that.
Okay. Cody, yes. You started with Lyndon Johnson. By the way, I really liked your speech, and I too echo the idea that you worked on this in practice, and there was a significant improvement, which proves that evolution is true.
Thank you.
So that's good. Well, you started with the Lyndon Johnson quote about immigration playing a vital role in the creation of our great nation, and you tied back to that, so you understood that concept well. And I think also you set the tone for what you were subsequently about to say. You didn't want to say, I'm going to come up here and trump and immigrant bash and say, let's round them up and send them back to Mexico because they're murderers and rapists, right? So, that was good. Your thesis preview was good. I liked the way you said, I disagree, but I would have liked you to have framed it more like in the context of this question. President Obama's executive order, friend or foe? My position is that his executive order is a foe. It's not a friend. I disagree with the order. See, and you were in the ballpark, but I would have liked you to have cleverly mastered hooking around with the actual wording of the topic.
I thought it was asking whether or not I'm a friend or foe, not whether or not the policy itself is a friend or foe to immigration.
I got that.
Yeah, right. Okay. See what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay, good. And what I mean to say to everybody is do your best and to answer the exact question you're given, you know, and you did, but I'm just saying, hook it in a little better. Your significant statement could have tied a little bit better to the audience. Here's what you said. Americans must remain a land of opportunity. It must remain a land on laws, founded on principles of checks and balances. Now, where's the link to them? Why are they interested in that? Why should they care about checks and balances and things like that? Remember, a significant statement is this is significant to them.
Okay.
Why does she care about checks and balances?
I care.
Yeah. So
It's because we're all educated here.
We're all in this together.
let's go to your first reason. I thought it was your best one, and you led with it. You had a district court decision that you quoted, calling it unconstitutional, and I thought that was a good side and a good argument that he's really exceeded his constitutional authority, which he regularly has, and it's the end justifies the means. It always is, and he always just says, we're in a gridlock, and so I had to do it. My hands are tied, and it's always the ends means is what they said. I had no choice, but really, that's a slippery slope. On your second reason why it's a foe, why it's a bad argument, and I would like to say why it's a bad policy to say the quote again, or the question again. Why? So your thesis, tie back to your thesis, is him lacking the popular support and the costing billions of dollars, and I thought that was well put and well documented. It wasn't just someone talking out of their hat saying, gee, these people are going to cost us a lot of money in benefits, but you actually documented from a reputable source, so that was good. On your third reason, I thought that the Pew Institute Foundation evidence was from 2015, which I would have stressed more with my voice. 2015 concluded, and they're pouring in more every year, and this is a problem. And just remember, tell me the difference between a summary and a conclusion.
So a summary is basically, I'm gonna state everything that I already said.
The points of your main body.
That conclusion is more like my final, last goodbye, my last hurrah, what if my call to action,
No. I'm glad I asked you, because I could tell from your conclusion that you don't really clearly understand it. Mm-hmm. A summary summarizes the main points of your support of your central thesis, and your central thesis is that this immigration, his executive order, is a foe. Mm-hmm. And so, therefore, there should be no doubt in this room that President Obama's executive order is a foe, right? It's a problem. And say it that way. But you did say that there should be no doubt in this room I do not support. But you were going to ask whether you supported it or not.
Okay.
And then your tie back was fine. Let's talk about your goals. You wanted to control the movement of your body and your walk, stay calm, cool, and collected. If I forget to move, nobody will know, but you didn't forget. Convince others that President Obama's actions, though morally understandable, are not okay and are legally wrong and impractical. How'd it go?
I think that I did really well on that. My first one, again, I know wasn't really lovely, you can't see with the pants, but I know my first time because I move a lot anyways, I have ADHD status, but so I wanted to make sure that I stayed planted.
Good.
When I moved, it was a calm movement.
Right.
Versus a rush kind of thing. So
right.
I think that I did that well. What was the second one again?
Calm, cool, collected.
Okay, yeah. When I was practicing, there was a couple times when I would forget something, and I kind of got myself worked up. And I don't think I really did that very much here.
And you don't call attention to it. Don't say sorry or. You know,
And I know
don't
that
breathe
was
heavily.
possibly a problem with some other people, so I want to make sure that I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And then also, in terms of convincing people, I think I did a pretty good job. I think that it's a very controversial topic in general, and I kind of wanted it to be my response to it to also be controversial. But I think I probably could add in a little bit more on the third supporting reference,
Yeah.
but I thought it was still overall pretty good. You guys think it was good?
Great.
Yeah, I thought it was diplomatically presented. By the way, I also appreciate there are people that when they disagree with the president, they call him Obama, and I really disagree with that. And I'm glad that you referred to our president because be it Democrat or Republican as President Obama, and I thought that showed good respect. So you did a good job
Well, I'd like to be
today.
ambassador one day, so.
Okay, good, Cody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, question. I would like to get a continuance for next week. I just want to.
Look, if anybody else will save you, I called on you.
I have it ready. I can give you the outline. I'll speak first next week. I just don't have.
Anybody else gonna save him? La la. It's not fair. I ran my finger down the page. It came up to you.
I'm not ready to speak though. I don't have the memorization down.
Okay, well, do it anyway. I'll let you do it again next week. Well, show us what you have.
Do you have enough time to
We only have 8 minutes.
We only have 8 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so wait a minute, I had. We'll do one last thing. I have the grades from don't forget to turn in your self-evaluations
With the next speech.
with the next speech, so turn that in. Some of you have already emailed them or sent them to me, but I prefer you bring them in person. And here are the grades from the first success speech, and so we'll take the rest of the time for those that want to sign up to do the debates, come and see me now.
Can we at least sign up? Is there any way that if something comes up we can say like, oh,
Never mind.
yeah, is that okay?
I guess so, but you know, it would sort of be good if you can be responsible,
I want to be
not flake.
Wait, is this for the extra credit?
Yeah, extra credit, yeah. Okay, come in.
So you had some grades?
Professor?
Yeah.
What if my selfie file was never put on there? I definitely submitted a hard copy.
No, I didn't get it.
I gave it to you last week too.
I thought, so send me an email.
These last 3 digits?
Okay, when that happens, in Europe they do that.
What
They
is
just
my-
put the name of the person. So that
Oh,
everyone
yeah.
sees your
In
grade.
France, they publish on the newspapers. I love it.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Wait, how?
Like your badge for passing out of high school, they just publish on the newspaper who passes you fail.
Okay.
Can I sign up for the extra?
Yeah, put in your email and your phone number
Okay. All right.
next to your name. Thank you.
Oh, I also wanted to talk to you about my phone.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so let me give you the exact wording. I don't want to change it or anything.
Okay, good. Let me